Something old and something new. We associate that with weddings, don't we? But today on Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to be associating it with the new name of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, which is the Austin Area Interreligious Ministries. That's what's new, and what's old is the Thanksgiving service sponsored by this organization for 16 years. We're going to learn about both of those developments on today's edition, so stay with us.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson in behalf of Austin Area Interreligious Ministries, the new name for Austin Metropolitan Ministries that we've used for a number of years now. But that's been changed, and we're going to be talking to the director of AAIM today, Susan Wills, who is going to explain how that name change came about and what that means for the community. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you.
And we also have Kathy Solomon, who is a board member of the organization, and in whose congregation the Thanksgiving service is going to be held later in November. Kathy, welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
You've been on our show before, so
Yes,
we're glad
I
to have...
Thank you for having me back.
And Susan back as well. So let's start. Susan, you've been with what started out as Austin Metropolitan Ministries and is now morphed into this with this new name. Tell us why that name change has occurred.
The decision was made to change the name because Austin Area Interreligious Ministries actually helps clarify what it is we do and why we exist. The main emphasis is on interreligious, who we are, and ministries, what we do.
So you do it not just ecumenically among Christians, or as with in the past with just with the Jewish community and the Muslim community. Now you're reaching out to many different faith traditions. Is that what's happening?
That's right. One of the things that has changed greatly in Austin is the number and variety of different faith traditions. And so interreligious encompasses not only the Christian denominations, but all of the faith traditions in Austin today.
Mm-hmm. We're going to come back to that, the two components. That's a good way to think about it. And but Kathy, you're on the board. You've seen this transition occurring. I think even maybe you indicated before Susan came on board earlier this year. You saw that coming about. How did you see that?
About a year and a half ago, we began interreligious dialogue. I've talked about it when I was on the program before. You couldn't deny that the face of Austin was changing and that the diversity in Austin was becoming predominant and not just in the background. Mm-hmm. And in our interreligious dialogue, we have invited many different faiths to be represented and have had wonderful dialogue, wonderful meetings. But the board began to recognize that the name Austin Metropolitan Ministries was inadequate. Number one, it wasn't just Austin. It was the entire area around Austin that was
Austin
participating.
Mm-hmm. That's
right. And interreligious is really what we're about. It's to include everyone in what Austin Metropolitan Ministries did. And so,
let's talk about some of this variety of faith traditions in the Austin area today. Just name some of the ones that are involved with the organization. Could you just give us a sense of that?
Right now we have over 130 faith traditions involved. The Baha'i faith, Sikhs, Muslims, Jews, Christians. Every major world religion makes its home in Austin today. And I think one of the examples of how that can help Austin grow and make us an even better community is when you look back at Martin Luther King and you see a man who was deeply embedded in the Baptist tradition. if he didn't learn from Gandhi and Gandhi's teachings from Hinduism, where would we be today? We wouldn't have had the civil rights movement as we know it. So today, when we look around and we see the different faith traditions, we have that same opportunity to learn more about how to love, how to come together, and how to live peacefully with one another.
And there's no other organization in town that you know of that is the umbrella, in a sense, under which this kind of variety works together and worships together.
That's right, we're the only ones.
And you're in this interreligious dialogue, Kathy. I know you just spoke. Give us an example of just kind of how that works and what that means to you.
Austin Metropolitan Ministries attracted many people to it, and they were looking for ways to become involved. And they can become involved through our programs, community mentoring, refugee resettlement. But there was also a desire for dialogue and getting to know one another. And, you know, I guess we're at a point in Austin where we have a reputation for being an open, liberal community. And if we were true to what we said we were, Austin Metropolitan Ministries, it would be appropriate for us to open up dialogue among the faiths.
Okay.
We have had tremendous learning within this group.
Tell us some of the faith traditions represented in that group.
We have Quaker, we have Catholic, we have Presbyterian, we have Muslim, we have Jewish, we have Unitarian, and our most recent presentation was by a member of our group who is Unitarian Universalist, and it was shocking to me how much I did not know about that.
So you learn a lot about these other folks' background.
That's right.
And I think the Thanksgiving service over the years has increasingly been one that's given emphasis to this interreligious, interfaith side of things. And we've got a series of right here, for instance, this brochure that talks about this Thanksgiving service this year. And I mentioned that it's at your congregation, Kathy.
That's right.
Temple Beth Israel.
The first time we've had it.
And it's on the usual time, the third Sunday of November.
That's right, the
which is yours.
19th.
And on the 18th or the 19th, beg your pardon,
Right.
at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Okay, and what do we have there? We got pictures of...
Well, we have Jewish children praying, a Jewish child praying. We have a Christian child praying. We have Catholic. We have Baha'i. We have several. We have 5 different religions represented on this poster.
I see. So even the images there indicate that diversity.
That's right.
Anything else you want to say about this little announcement about the
Well, we
service?
anticipate that the service will be even more beautiful than the previous ones because we are expanding the service to include more diversity among Christian faiths and expand the participation of those faiths that are not quite so prominent in Austin.
All right. Susan, you did us the favor of bringing us some of these posters from earlier years, beginning back in 1988. I think this was the first Thanksgiving Union service, and I think we've got 4 or 5 more of those that give us that series down through the years and different locations in town, different constituencies as AMM grew, now Austin Area Interreligious Ministries. And this is the example of an evolution of what is there about this service, on this Thanksgiving community service, that you want to tell us is going to be different this year.
The emphasis this year that I think is very special is that Rabbi Fulberg is having it at Temple Beth Israel. And with the tensions that we see in the world today, in the Middle East. He is welcoming the Muslims, all of the different faith traditions, and when we look around that day, we will see at first glance how different we all are. There will be a difference in dress, a difference in language, a difference in the way we pray, the difference in prayer postures. But when you look at someone and you see that they love God, that's reflected in their face and in their heart, and that's always the same for all of us. And if we can really understand that and come together, then this Thanksgiving could be a microcosm for the peace that could come throughout the world.
So this year, in the year 2000, we're especially mindful of the conflict in the Middle East, you're saying, which locally could be a healing thing for those who are of those faith traditions that are at odds across the world.
That's right. And of course, there is a lot of attention on the Middle East right now, but Austin Area Interreligious Ministries provides protection and refuge for people who suffer religious persecution throughout the world.
Okay.
So there's also, we need to remember the people in Tibet and Kosovo and Northern Ireland and the number of places where religious persecution is happening is enormous. So this is just a little microcosm of the possibility for goodness.
The ministry, one of the ministries of Austin Area Interreligious Ministries is resettlement.
That's right.
And this has included people coming from war-torn areas.
Yes. I think it's sometimes difficult. I know that I read the newspaper every day, but it wasn't until I met the refugees in Austin that came with missing fingers or ears missing or just had suffered the most horrible of atrocities. Did it really hit me in the heart how much suffering there is in this world and how lucky we are to be living where we do.
Well, I think that this aspect of the resettlement that is going to have a chance to be, I would suspect it could be shared with the folks who gather for worship on November 19th, along with the other components of the ministries, would be, I think, the one thing that has grown. I've seen it over a period of 16 years since it started. And every year there is more of this diversity within Austin as a whole and connection with the world events that you just mentioned. So that would be one reason to encourage people to come, as well as to celebrate this one national holiday where, you know, people can, of whatever faith tradition, can sing, "My country, 'tis of thee." And
We'll be there together.
yeah, right. And so often I think we run the risk of losing the unum in the pluribus, and how to affirm what we have in common is one thing that can be done in this service. Who's the speaker again, Kathy, for the,
Reverend Chuck Meyer.
who is one of our hosts on
That's
Austin
right.
Faith Dialogue?
That's right. He'll be speaking.
Yeah, well, people know Chuck throughout the community, and he's very articulate, and I think that that's one incentive for folks to come and see the ones they see on television now doing the service or preaching that day. We're going to have to stop, though, and take a breath. Take a deep breath, everybody, because we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in just a moment on this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where today our subject is on something old, something new. What is old is the 16-year annual Thanksgiving community service, which has been sponsored by Austin Metropolitan Ministry since 1988. What's new is the name of the organization, as AMM now becomes Austin Area Interreligious Ministries. So what you saw on the monitor there about the various programs that have been associated with AMM, soon you'll see them associated with this new AAIM name. We have Susan Wills, who's the Executive Director for AAIM, and Kathy Solomon, who's on the Board of Directors for this interfaith, interreligious witness. And in the first half, we were talking about why the change in the name and how that is going to be reflected in the annual Thanksgiving service. I think that it would be well just to give a little bit of a focus here to that service again. There are some more of the posters that were done, I think these in the early 1990s. This is, of course, the information about this year's on November the 19th at Temple Beth Israel, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But then there are the ones that hope we have a chance to look at here. Yes, that the designs each year picked up. For instance, I can see this has an interreligious significance in terms of that particular year. And the others, as we come closer, more recent years, the speakers have been quite a variety. I remember Betty Sue Flowers spoke from the University of Texas, noted author and person of faith. We've had Chuck Merrill speak at this from University Methodist. And here, I think, was probably the clearest emblem of the various faith traditions interacting. And you have clergy from all of these, again, this year. Is that correct? They're going to be doing their thing.
We will have a clergy circle, which we will have representatives from Catholic, Disciples of Christ, Muslim, Jewish, and other faiths. They will be reciting prayers of thanksgiving according to their faith tradition. Mm-hmm. We will have demonstrations of faith, which will include Hindu children, which they will have offertory dances that they'll be performing for us. We have children's choirs. We have the adult choir from Imani Community Church. We have, we have Vietnamese children who will be celebrating with an offertory dance. Mm-hmm. And we have chanting both in Hebrew and in Arabic. Yes, mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. And I've seen a Sikh, a member of that community, taking part in years past.
And he will be participating this year as well.
Okay. And you mentioned the Baha'is community, and so altogether it's going to be a mix.
It'll be a mix, but what is not a mix is that we all pray to the same God and that we are all seeking the same end, and mm-hmm. we are all hopeful for peace in the world. And we give thanks to God for what we have, and we pray to God. It may be in different, have different methods and in different tongues, but we pray to God for the same things.
Okay. And among the same things is unity for Austin, Texas. Is that? In Austin area, Round Rock,
that's right.
Leander, the various surrounding communities that are part of now this AAIM. Let's talk about, just for a moment, Susan, some of the other programs. The Thanksgiving service is one of the older ones. This Austin Faith Dialogue was an original one. And then along came Community Mentoring Network, Hands-On Housing, the resettlement program that you mentioned, and some others. How does the name Austin Area Interreligious Ministries give people a better understanding of what these ministries do and are?
Ministries is what we do, and the three main programs are Hands-On Housing, Refugee Resettlement, and Community Mentoring Network. Although there are many others, The Spanton Burial Fund provides help for families, mostly families who've lost a child and can't afford burial expenses. We're part of the Crop Walk, and we also do a weed and seed program, so there's so many opportunities to be of service. There are times when it's important not to talk, just to work, just to be of service. And when you are working side by side, for example, with Hands-On Housing, and you're from a Lutheran church, and you're working with the Hindus, when you get together on a project like that, and you laugh and you have fun and you just do good and you just be of service, you understand that you have a lot in common. And that's how relationships are built. That's how communities are built.
Okay. And this is lifting up then the fact that it's various faith traditions working together. And I'm just wondering if, for instance, let's take the Community Mentoring Network, which has to do with providing mentors for young offenders. You have people from various faith traditions doing that?
That's right.
I mean, you can think in your mind's eye of folks who are, say, from the Muslim community or the Jewish community, as well as the Christian community, doing that kind of thing?
I'm very proud of Community Mentoring Network. As a mentoring program, we have more minorities working in this program than any other program working with youth. And the other interesting thing that we've done is by bringing the congregations of faith together in the 02 zip code. 78702 is traditionally one of the most underserved areas in Austin.
Okay.
We have had the AME Church and Our Lady of Guadalupe, traditionally an African American congregation and a Latino congregation, working together. And these two churches did not get along with one another. The people had not worked together in many years and did not have friendly relationships.
I see.
Community Mentoring Network brought the children from each congregation together, the youth, on a project, an oral history project. And they ended up having such a wonderful time that this Christmas there will be a La Posada event that is a very special time where each congregation will welcome one another into their church.
I see. Okay, so that's coming up. I mean, after the Thanksgiving service. When is that La Posada?
December 11th.
Okay. And I think we're going to actually do a program on Austin Faith Dialogue to give more play to that. But thanks for telling us about it now.
Great.
Kathy, can you illustrate further in your mind how the interreligious dimension of Austin area interreligious ministries affects the ministries, or is reflected in, Susan has named the Community Mentoring Network and the Hands-On Housing?
Well, we have the refugee resettlement, which is most certainly interreligious, and we have congregations that have been very generous in interreligious representation there as well. We have Christians coming in to be resettled, Christian refugees. We have Muslim refugees coming in. We, and I too had an experience like Susan's. It's, you know, you read about these people coming and you realize that they're coming from a war-torn area, but it's not until you see them in person and you meet their children and you realize these people are political refugees that there is just so much to be done, not only in Austin, Texas, but for people who live outside of Austin, Texas, coming to Austin. And the interreligious aspect for me is just another opportunity to grasp the worldliness of religion.
You know what? I'm just thinking about the fact that you're a member of Temple Beth Israel, where the service is going to be held.
Yes.
And your eyes light up when you talk about this interreligious experience.
Well,
I mean, something's happened. as a result of this, it looks like?
Well, for me, as a child, I was always curious about other religions. I was raised as a Roman Catholic and converted to Judaism about 10 years ago.
I see.
And for a person to be raised in one religion and then join another religion, I mean, I'm certain that some people can probably close the door and move on and only practice according to the new faith, what the requirements are. But for me, it gave my life so much more dimension to include instead of discard what I grew up with into this new person I have developed into because of the opportunity that I have in Judaism to welcome God and other people into my life.
So you came into Judaism from another faith tradition.
Right.
And now within Judaism, you're opening yourself to the experience of others that I think maybe perhaps is accentuated, it sounds like, by the fact that you just weren't born and brought up in the same one.
It's definitely to my benefit to have been exposed to both religions.
Yeah. And I remember, Susan, when you came on board as executive director, I remember the article in the paper that said that you felt that you were good for this job because you've had interfaith experience in your own background. What was that again? That
I was born to a Jewish family, more secular. My family was not really very religious.
Okay.
And recently converted to Christianity in 1996.
I see.
A Methodist.
And you're a Methodist now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, isn't that interesting? I mean, you've gone in different directions, but it's, again, you have the same sensitivity, it seems to me, toward how can you be bigoted? How can you be intolerant? How can you say ours is the only true religion?
How can you?
How can you?
That's
When you've
right.
had the kind of experience that each of you have had.
It sets an example for my children, I hope, and for others as well, to open your eyes to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Look, we're down to 1 minute. Want to go back to the Thanksgiving service. We got, I think, one more time to show this information about it. And Temple Beth Israel is down off of Shoal Creek, right?
That's right, 38th and Shoal Creek. It's kind of catty corner from Seton Medical Center.
Okay. And so that it's centrally located for folks
That's
around
right.
the whole metropolitan area. And you're going to serve refreshments?
We will. We will have a food festival, which will have representation from the different ethnic groups that are represented in the Thanksgiving service as well.
That last word may be the main incentive for viewers to come and taste of the interreligious experience.
That has been the tradition.
Okay.
We've tried to provide a taste of the world.
Kathy, thank you for that update. Kathy Solomon and Susan Wills, thank you for coming back again.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Richard.
folks, for being with us today. And join us next week on Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Richard Thompson, and peace be with you.